Shield AI. We spent the past 10 years building the world's best AI pilot. Along the way, we built incredible development tools, infrastructure, and pipelines.
Imagine a fighter jet screaming through the sky at supersonic speeds, executing combat maneuvers that would crush a human pilot, making split-second tactical decisions in environments where GPS doesn't work and communications are jammed, all without a single person on board. This isn't a scene from a distant future or a speculative concept drawing. This technology exists right now. It's being tested in active war zones, and it's about to fundamentally change how nations project military power. We're standing at the edge of a transformation in warfare that's as significant as the introduction of gunpowder or nuclear weapons. Except this time, the revolution is being led not by governments with unlimited budgets, but by Silicon Valley startups racing against defense giants to build autonomous weapon systems powered by artificial intelligence. The implications are staggering, not just for military strategy, but for global power dynamics, employment in skilled professions, and the ethical questions surrounding machines that can potentially kill without human intervention. What you're about to see represents the cutting edge of military technology, where the line between science fiction and operational reality has completely dissolved. Multiple companies, ranging from ambitious startups to established defense contractors like Lockheed Martin, are betting billions that autonomous drones represent the inevitable future of aerial combat. Shield AI, founded in 2015, has built its entire business model around developing increasingly sophisticated unmanned systems. They started with basic quadcopter reconnaissance drones and evolved to the VBAT, an intelligence and surveillance platform with vertical takeoff and landing capabilities that secured a nearly $200 million contract with the U.S. Coast Guard. But the VBAT, successful as it's been in deployment, represents old technology compared to what's coming next. The company's next-generation aircraft, called the XBat, isn't just another drone. It's being described as the world's first fighter jet that combines AI piloting with vertical takeoff and landing in a combat-capable platform. This is a fully autonomous fighter jet equipped to carry missiles and engage in combat operations without any human pilot whatsoever. The distinction is critical. Shield AI has already demonstrated the ability to fly an F-16 fighter jet autonomously using their AI system called Hivemind. But bringing together AI, piloting, and vertical takeoff capabilities in a purpose-built next-generation aircraft represents something unprecedented. The company's stated mission driving this development is straightforward: save the lives of service members by removing them from the cockpit entirely while maintaining or exceeding combat effectiveness. The timeline for deployment is surprisingly near-term. Subsystem flights for the XBat are scheduled for 2026, full system flight testing in 2027, with production beginning in 2029. The company isn't just theorizing. They're already conducting engine testing, radar cross-section analysis, and wind tunnel testing to refine the design before manufacturing begins. Understanding how they're developing this technology reveals the meticulous engineering process required to build autonomous combat aircraft. At their wind tunnel testing facility in San Diego, California, Shield AI creates precisely scaled-down models of their aircraft, in this case, 17% scale versions small enough to fit inside the testing chamber. While computer simulations are valuable, there's still no substitute for physical testing, where they can blow air over the model and directly measure lift, drag, and aerodynamic performance to see if it matches theoretical predictions. This approach is crucial because it allows engineers to make design adjustments before building full-scale prototypes. If you skip straight to flight testing with a full aircraft and discover problems, you've already invested too deeply in the design, and changes become prohibitively expensive. These scale models are expensive to produce, but they're vastly cheaper than building and potentially losing full working aircraft during testing. Like many technology startups, Shield AI is investing heavily in development and not yet profitable, despite generating substantial revenue. The company reports generating hundreds of millions of dollars annually and anticipates doubling revenue this year, with strong projected growth moving forward. The political and financial environment is increasingly favorable for this industry. In June 2025, President Trump issued an executive order titled Unleashing American Drone Dominance, which aims to accelerate commercialization of drone technologies and integrate them into the national airspace system. While no direct dollar amount was attached attached to that specific order, recent defense appropriations have allocated billions for unmanned aerial systems and AI development. The strategic justification is compelling from a military perspective. Drones are relatively cheap and ubiquitous on modern battlefields, but cost isn't the only factor. Analysis from current conflicts shows that drones inflict approximately 60 to 70% of damaged weapons on adversary forces and cause up to 80% of injuries. The U.S. military recognizes it needs to field millions of drones, and deploying millions of drones is only feasible with AI and autonomy because you simply cannot train and deploy millions of human pilots. The economics are striking when you examine the numbers. Shield AI estimates the XBat will cost approximately $27 million per unit to manufacture. That might sound expensive until you compare it to what the military currently spends on fighter jets. An F-35, one of the most widely used modern military fighters, costs between $80 to $100 million per aircraft depending on variant, and that's before factoring in pilot training costs. A RAND Corporation analysis estimates that training a basic qualified pilot for an F-35 costs over $10 million alone. That represents significant investment from the government in a highly skilled profession that takes years to develop. The U.S. Air Force is already experiencing a pilot shortage precisely because it's such a demanding job requiring such substantial investment. Lockheed Martin finalized a contract at the end of September 2025 to deliver nearly 300 additional F-35s to U.S. military and international customers, demonstrating continued demand for traditional manned fighters. But Shield AI's goal isn't necessarily to replace the F-35 immediately. Their stated ambition is for the XBat to become this generation's F-16, the most widely proliferated fighter jet on the planet, serving as the workhorse of air forces globally.
In about a year and a half ago, we made the decision, you know what, we're going to package this up, we're going to commercialize it, we're going to bring it to market so that we can enable our customers to deploy millions of AI pilots.
However, Shield AI is far from alone in this space. They're competing against much larger companies, including General Atomics and Anduril, who were selected by the U.S. Air Force in 2024 to develop a fleet of autonomous drones specifically designed to fly alongside manned fighter jets. That contract represented a significant upset because it meant beating out major established players like Boeing and Lockheed Martin, who had expected to secure that development funding. Military analysts note this represents a genuinely new challenge because while the concept of crewed-uncrewed teaming sounds compelling in theory, practical implementation in actual battlefield conditions remains largely untested. The question isn't whether autonomous combat aircraft can be built, it's whether they can be effectively integrated into complex military operations involving coordination between human pilots and AI systems. In such a crowded, competitive landscape, Shield AI's strategy centers on their AI capabilities rather than just the physical aircraft. They're focusing on leveraging artificial intelligence to ensure mission success in contested environments, meaning situations where GPS is unavailable and communications are actively jammed by adversaries. Traditional drones become useless when GPS signals are blocked, but Shield AI's systems use software and intelligence to navigate, identify targets, and deliver actionable information even when denied access to satellite positioning. The Hivemind AI software that powers these capabilities is explicitly positioned as the cornerstone and foundation for everything the company does. Leadership believes it will ultimately be the long-term growth driver because it enables development of next-generation aircraft and can be licensed to other defense contractors. They're working directly with major prime defense contractors globally to provide the development tools, infrastructure, and pipelines that Shield AI uses to create AI and autonomy capabilities. Their manufacturing and engineering facility is where they build autonomous systems, but more importantly, it's where they integrate cutting-edge autonomy with world-class aircraft design. But this raises the fundamental question that makes many people deeply uncomfortable. Is AI genuinely at the point where it can reliably make autonomous decisions in war zones? Shield AI's position is unequivocal. Yes, definitely, but with critical caveats. They always assume there's a human in the loop somewhere in the decision-making chain. They point to real-world evidence. Hivemind is deployed today in Ukraine, helping deliver successful outcomes for Ukrainian forces. That battle-tested experience in active combat provides confidence in the system's capabilities that no amount of testing in controlled environments could replicate. The company frames their mission as deterring war through peace through strength, enabling countries to keep adversaries in check through superior capability. But AI advancement in military applications doesn't come without legitimate concerns. Questions about job displacement, security threats if the technology falls into wrong hands, and ethical implications of AI-powered weapon systems are unavoidable. Shield AI's official position on the most controversial question is clear and emphatic. They do not believe autonomous systems should make any moral decisions about the use of lethal force. That's company policy, its U.S. military policy, and its NATO policy. The founder, a former Navy SEAL who has personally made life and death decisions about using lethal force on battlefields, argues that concerns about autonomous killer robots are overblown by Hollywood depictions and don't reflect how these systems actually operate in practice. Historical context shows drones have been used in warfare since World War I, but their importance has grown exponentially. In recent conflicts, 70% utilize drones in some capacity. The proliferation is staggering. In 2010, only 3 countries possessed armed drones. By 2025, that number increased to 118 countries and continues growing. Military analysts confirm that drones have become tactically, operationally, and strategically central rather than peripheral to modern warfare. The war in Ukraine has particularly highlighted the explosion of drone deployments and the specialized functions they perform. Ironically, a significant beneficiary of this drone arms race is China, because both Ukraine and Russia are using Chinese components to some extent. American drone manufacturers have had notably limited presence on actual battlefields compared to their international competitors. One defensive tactic utilized by both Ukraine and Russia is GPS jamming, sending signals that render many autonomous drones completely ineffective. This is the exact problem Shield AI solves with their AI approach. They've conducted hundreds of operations in Ukraine with their VBAT system where GPS and communications were actively jammed, marking the first time since that war began that forces had the ability to conduct long-range reconnaissance, intelligence, surveillance, and targeting while GPS was denied. The emphasis on vertical takeoff and landing is strategic. The number one benefit is eliminating dependence on runways, which are massive, stationary, expensive infrastructure targets that adversaries can easily attack. Traditionally, aircraft designers face a trade-off. You can have vertical takeoff capability, or you can have long-range and useful payload capacity, but not both. Shield AI's engineering challenge is breaking that curve, achieving vertical takeoff while maintaining long-range and useful payload capacity. The XBat is small enough to pack in the back of a truck and launch from small ships, providing unprecedented operational flexibility. These advancements haven't come without setbacks. In 2024, a U.S. service member's fingers were partially severed during a drone landing accident, and subsequent reporting alleged the company had been overlooking safety precautions for years. The incident resulted in some loss of customer confidence and disrupted profitability targets. The company's response has been focusing intensively on building safety into organizational culture and taking the issue with utmost seriousness. Leadership believes they've successfully rebuilt momentum and customer confidence, pointing to their current strong position and confidence in delivering safe products. Shield AI appears on the CNBC Disruptor 50 list, recognizing the most innovative private companies shaping the AI generation. While they're considering eventually taking the company public, believing it could be highly valuable for shareholders, they're not rushing that process. It's a long-term goal rather than immediate priority. For now, the focus remains on developing technology that represents nothing less than a fundamental transformation in how wars will be fought. Whether that future is something to anticipate or fear depends entirely on your perspective. But one thing is certain, it's coming whether we're ready or not.